Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Mulch. I'm so grateful to see the sun out in Leeds today. The weather over the weekend was grey and wet and just generally yucky here in Yorkshire. It was grim. So the sun, it's just such a massive blessing, and it gives you that hope that spring is on the way. I really hope that the sun is shining for at least part of the day wherever you are. Last week was episode 10 of Mulch. It's a milestone, not because of the double figures, but because most podcasts apparently don't make it to 10 episodes. So I'm really proud of us for making it. Weird as it is for me to share that sort of thing, I don't often share opinions on us and our work. So I'm sharing it because it's real and it's true. I am proud of Antony and I, and Silver Grey Foliage, but particularly on this occasion, Mulch. More than that, though, I am genuinely grateful from the bottom of my heart. For those of you who listen every week, those of you who catch up every now and again and listen to episodes back to back, those of you who are listening for the first time today, I'm grateful to you all. Thank you. It means a lot to me that you would bother to listen to my witterings, and it means so much more when you share the benefits and the help and support that it's offering to you. So thank you. Today's reminders. The Seeds of Change workshop is coming up. It's on the 19th. No, it's not. It's on the 17th of March at 9:30 in the morning. Let's get that right. So 17th of March at 9:30 in the morning GMT. It's for those of you who are transitioning to 50-50 in terms of other career or other life and flower farming, or even to full-time career life as a flower farmer. There are so many questions around that. There are so many challenges, and it's really difficult to open the questions and know that you're going to get a full and wholesome answer. And so this is a genuine opportunity to reflect on the difficult stuff and on the positive outcomes. There's more information about this on our website. It's in our Instagram. The links to buy your tickets are below. Join us if that's where you're at. I promise it'll be value for money. Finally, today's episode is about record keeping. So those of you who know me or know of us know that I'm pretty keen on record keeping. I think it's really important, and that probably is a transition or kind of hangover from my previous careers. I'm going to talk about basic data sets here today. Sadly, the 2024 Flower Farmers Planner is sold out. And so Liz, our designer, and I are cooking up an option for the rest of the year if you weren't able to buy that. It's not available yet, but there'll be more information coming very soon. So if a planner that is designed by a flower farmer for flower farmers to be useful not only this year but as a record keeping mechanism and a bible for your future practice, please do sign up to the wait list. It's in the show notes below. There's a link on our website, and as soon as there's more information, we'll let you know. Please note that that is only a sign up to the waitlist. If you want to be on our newsletter, which can finally go out again because I have fixed MailerLite, finally, then you need to sign up for that separately. We don't believe in sending out spam, so we will only send you information that you've asked for. Okay, so today we're talking about minimum records because I know there's a lot to do because I'm doing it too. And we are all getting busier and busier. And as we get busier and busier, we all do the do, and the admin starts to fall by the wayside. And because the longer I haven't recorded stuff, the more of a challenge it is to start again. And I think it's possible that that's the same for you. So for me, I think the simplest thing is to identify the smallest set of records that gives you information, predictability, and patterns. And in turn, when you have that information that gives you predictability and patterns, or an inkling, an idea of what's going to happen next and when, we have knowledge and power and confidence. Which means that because you have the evidence from your own practice, you will seek the answers from your own farm and rely on your own ability more rather than trying to emulate others. And as a result, you can grow and sell more. So I'm talking about this now because the season is starting to gear up. There is a lot going on. Seed sowing, pricking out, soil block making, watering of greenhouses, preparing of land, still weeding, still clearing ends of kind of last year's perennials, still making new beds, still cutting foliage, starting to send out new orders, checking on the Narcissi, dealing with Mother's Day, and the list literally goes on and on and on. And so I really want to encourage you to set the habit now so that it's ingrained when you get to the peak of the peak, because we haven't even started yet. It's March. I mean, the exciting kind of abundance of flowers is soon to come, but we're not there yet. Before we get there, let's set those habits so that the minimum set of information for the whole season is gathered rather than just for the first 3 weeks. And yes, I do have years, my first and my second, where I have 3 weeks worth of records and 10 weeks worth of records and no more. And I'm doing it now because it's easier to add to habits that you've formed than it is to set a new one completely. And so as the season goes on, there'll be a few more record-keeping type podcasts. And also as the years go on, once you've set and ingrained some really basic key information, it's much easier to add the detail and the kind of fancy bits, twiddly bits around the edges. Think of it like a bouquet. You need your structure. This is your structure. And then you add your extra beauties and the glorified doodles. Okay, so before I crack on and talk about the 3 key areas I would encourage you to be collecting information on, I really want you to have an idea or to think about how you're going to set the habit. So personally, I find the easiest way to set a new habit is by doing it immediately after something that I know I'm guaranteed to do already. So, for example, I can be quite studenty, and when I'm feeling at my most student-like, and yes, I know I'm 43, but anyway, when I am at my most student-like, I don't make the bed, and I'm often the last out of bed, so I don't make the bed, and then in the evening I'm really cross that I come back to a bed to get into that isn't tidy and doesn't feel like I'm going to get into that luxury moment of sleep. And so I know that every morning before I go downstairs, I brush my teeth. And the reason I brush my teeth before I go downstairs is because once I'm downstairs, I get engaged in the morning hubbub and chaos before school. And then somehow the day has carried on, it's midday and I haven't brushed my teeth. So I know that I am going to do that every morning before I go down the stairs. So instead of just brushing my teeth and going down the stairs, I now brush my teeth, and after I've brushed my teeth, I go and make my bed. After that, I can head downstairs. So what I'm doing is I'm adding the thing that I'm not that necessarily keen on doing to something that I know that I will do, so that the two become associated. So as you go through the podcast and you're thinking about those 3 areas, I've made some suggestions, but I'd really like you to think about what you could add these habits onto to increase the likelihood of them happening. So as ever, with anything that I record, I'm going to remind you that this is my opinion. I'm pretty anal about records, but this is my opinion on which 3 things will make a difference specifically to your flower growing capacity and plans and intentions for the future. Because actually, there are very few things that change and influence what you'll do next. So, number 1 of 3, make a list of everything that you're growing. So this sounds really simple, and it is simple. And the reason it's important is because having this list reminds you of all the potential flowers and foliage that you will have, especially at the beginning of the season when you're thinking, I must grow more, I must grow more, I must grow more. Do you really need to grow more? Because actually you'll have a lot in the ground already. And so just have a look at that, make that list. I think the other thing to be mindful of when we're thinking you must grow more, is that in the ground, those things that are still not visible and those tiny little green seedlings that look like they're not going to do very much actually create an abundance. So it's about understanding what you have whilst you're in the process of growing more. And finally, it's about understanding the word yet. It is March. We are in week 11 of the growing season. It's still flipping freezing at night, often here in Yorkshire. And so that little word yet is so powerful and so important because we're anticipating what will come rather than understanding what we have now. So just bear that in mind. Now, how would I do this? Well, I have a field plan, so I use my field plan to write that list. But if you don't have a field plan, then you might take a nice stroll around all the spaces that you grow in with a pad of paper and a pen. And everywhere you get to that you cut from, write down what you cut. Plant by name, and whether it's foliage or flowers. It's that simple. Then when you get back to your workspace or your propagating space, wherever that is, kitchen windowsill, kitchen table, workshop, greenhouse, polytunnel, it really doesn't matter. When you get back to that space, make a list of all the annuals and biennials and perennials that you are growing from seed for this season. Add them to your list, and there you go. That is your list of flowers that you will have for the season. And every time I do this exercise, it is longer than I expect it to be. Longer and longer and longer. And it gives me hope and it gives me confidence that I'm going to have flowers. Number 2, make a list of all the annuals and biennials that you're going to sow and how. So this is slightly different from number 1. The annuals and biennials that you've added to your first list are so that you know what you'll have. The annuals and biennials that you're adding to this list are about when you started sowing them and how you started sowing them. So I'm not asking you for dates of pricking out. I'm not asking you for dates of being ready to plant out. I am purely asking you to write down the date, what you're sowing, and how. And by how, I mean, are you direct sowing into the ground? Are you sowing into bigger pots and pricking out? Are you putting your seeds into seed trays directly? Or are you soil blocking everything? Because the how makes a big difference in the future. So I now have a list, a growing list, of flowers that I can sow directly into the cell trays, and I know that they will do just fine. Doesn't work for everything, but it does work for quite a few things, and so that's a list that I keep adding to and testing so that I can improve my efficiency. When would you do this? Well, for me, I have quite a routine. So I know that I fill my cell trays, I bang them down, I add more soil to the top so that they're nice and level, I put my seeds into the seed trays, and then I press them down. After I've pressed them down, I take them over to the trays that are full of water, and they soak. They attract their water and they gather as much water as they're going to. I then sprinkle vermiculite over the top and move my seeds to the propagating bench. Okay, so that's my process. Now, I know that once the seeds are covered in vermiculite, they all look the same. I can't tell what on earth I've put where. And I also know that once things have moved as far as the trays of water, there is no pen there because I don't leave them there, and there are no labels there, and so there's precious little chance that I will remember to label anything whilst it's there. So I label every tray after I've pressed the seeds down and before I put them in the water tray. That's when I do it. So that's my process. I add it in there because otherwise I found that I wasn't doing it. And when I don't do it, it means that I don't know what I'm growing. And I can't see when I started growing it. When would you do it for you? Have a think about your process. Have a think about where it would fit in. Number 3, make a list of when you start cutting each flower and when you stop cutting each flower. Now, it is more simple than it sounds. I'm not asking you to literally say, I stopped cutting on the 3rd of June for GM. Okay? What I want you to do, I want you to try and practice doing, is writing down each week as you start to cut what you're cutting. That's it. Literally, that is it. I want you to walk around and write a list of everything that you're cutting that week, every week. You don't need to do anything else. Unless you are well on your way to being a wholesale grower, the numbers of stems is a detail that you don't need to know if you are planning your habit. And this is what we're doing. We're setting that initial habit so that we can build on it later in the season and or in the future years when you feel like you have the capacity to add more to your system. That is it. So we're making that first step. And you can do this absolutely anywhere. So you can do it on your phone, in a dedicated notepad, you can do it in your Flower Farmer's Planner. As long as you're putting the information somewhere where you're going to find it, year in, year out, week in, week out, it doesn't matter. Put it anywhere you like. If you've got a blackboard or a whiteboard in your growing space, put it there. Honestly, it really doesn't matter. The point is to collect the information. Now, at the end of the season, when you write those out or when you look at them one after the other, it will become obvious that you started cutting cornflower at the beginning of June and you stopped cutting cornflower at the end of July. And then your second succession was ready at the beginning of September and you stopped cutting it at the end of September because you'll have written it down and then you won't have written it down. It will come and it will go. So you'll know how many weeks you were cutting it for. It's really that simple. When would you do this? Well, the when is entirely up to you. So this is about predictability. This is about patterns. This is about habit and rhythm setting to your week. So when would be the most helpful to you in your week? Or when are you most likely to do it? Which days of the week do you know that you'll arrive and have a hint of extra time? Because you always do, to make a cup of tea, to have a look around and just enjoy the beauty and splendour of what you're growing. When would it work for you? For me, last season, I did it every Sunday because I knew on a Sunday I'd be at the field with the family and I could walk around and I could make my list. This year it'll be a little bit different, so I'll probably end up doing it twice. But remember that where we are in our business life, we are needing to cut more, and I'm going to make the assumption that for some of you I'm further ahead and for others I'm further behind. Other people might make those lists 2, 3, 4, 5 times a week. But you don't need to do that as a starter of your habit. You need to do it once so that you have that basic minimum data set. There you go. 3 pieces of data that will give you confidence in your growing and will make a meaningful collection of information that will inform how you grow next season. And that's what we're aiming for, being able to inform your practice. Now, the pedants among you might say, well, are you not just dumbing it down, Rebecca? The business practice requires much more information than that to be successful. And I would say I accept that you need more information in the long term. And I certainly can't lie that I like records and I like data and I love detail. And when I don't have that detail, I go looking for it. And I'm incredibly frustrated when I don't have it. However, I'm also happy to admit that if I pared it down, if I looked at what actually influences individual decisions on our flower farm, that basic data set makes more of a difference than the numbers or whatever else. So this is why I've picked those 3 criteria to share with you and to hope that they help you. Let me know how you get on. Shorter episode than normal today. Thank you for listening. Do sign up to the waitlist for the next generation of the Flower Farmer's Planner. The link is in our show notes and also on the website. It's really important that you understand that if I've put a link there, it is just for the Flower Farmers Planner information when it's available. If you want to be on our newsletters, which can finally go out again, you need to sign up to those separately, and that just pops up on the website. If there's anything that you would like to hear me talk about, drop me an email, drop me a message on Instagram, let me know. Links for both are again in the show notes, and I'd love to know what you're keen for me to talk about. Finally, please take a moment, just a moment, to share the podcast in your stories and to write a review and give us a rating. It makes a huge difference to the number of people who are able to listen to Mulch, and hopefully the number of people that it will help. What I'm learning is that I don't always see when you have posted about it, because I keep finding it in other people's stories and sending them messages saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't always see it. So if I haven't said thank you and this has disheartened you, I'm genuinely sorry. But honestly, from the bottom of my heart, it means that I haven't seen it and Instagram hasn't shared it with me. Please continue to share. I will be back next week with another episode of Mulch that will hopefully help you to build a profitable and rewarding flower farming practice. Until then, have a fabulous week. I hope the sun shines for you. Rebecca.